Okay. Before we get to that, I just want to bring up the photo we have now of the suspect. This has just come through. This is being reported in the New York Post, and this is the man that police have in custody. So this is a face to the name of this 58-year-old Ryan Wesley Routh. So there you have it. James, I want to talk about rhetoric for a moment.
Yeah.
Do you think rhetoric from the Democrats leads to this incitement against Donald Trump, or is it just the tone and tenor of debate in the US at the moment, which has been heading this way for quite some years?
Well, Laura, it's a really interesting question here, and I'm really loath to blame rhetoric per se for inspiring people to violent acts. People who commit violent acts, are ultimately responsible for their violent acts. I don't subscribe to, that idea that words necessarily are violence, because, of course, that leads to all sorts of things where people want to restrict speech on the basis of protecting, people from violence. But what I will say is that when it comes to political violence, the left likes to act in the United States and elsewhere like they have clean hands on this. But I mean, if anybody who lived through the 2020 riots around BLM and Antifa, know that violence is very much a feature of left-wing politics. And I know people will say, oh, well, January 6th too, and that's fine. You can say that. But what I do think is appalling is that some outlets, such as MSNBC in the U.S., have tried to somehow say that this is Trump's fault for his own rhetoric. And, this is just appalling here. The thing is, there's a lot of questions that we need answers on. One thing that I would love to know, Laura, is how did this individual, this alleged would-be assassin, and I'm saying alleged, but how did he know that the former president would be playing Trump at that time, at that place? I mean, I think there's questions that need to be answered and investigated here. I'm not suggesting a conspiracy, but I do think we need to know answers to these questions going forward.
Yeah, I think so too. And often what these cases can come about, what can happen in the days where this is investigated, is that I think the Secret Service has a hell of a job ahead of them to be able to track and know all the threats against Donald Trump. I mean, 58-year-old Ryan Wesley Routh, does he fit into the profile of hundreds of other people that might be upset with Donald Trump? And when you talk about rhetoric, I mean, it was just a couple of hours ago that Donald Trump tweeted, "I hate Taylor Swift." I mean, I'm not saying that's incitement, but, I'm talking about the tone of things in America. The tone of political debate in America has been diabolical for years, and Trump is a part of that.
Well, sure, but I mean, if we find out that this Routh fellow was a Swiftie, then, maybe there's, something to that tweet. But to be serious about it for a moment, though, I just, I think that we have to be really, really careful about saying that, we need to be careful about our words because people might do the wrong thing. Well, people who do the wrong thing, we'll do the wrong thing for whatever reason.
Oh, I agree with
and I
you.
would love to see it. I would love to see, look, I would love to see, Laura, I would love that, we would go to revert to sort of the, high-minded days of the Lincoln-Douglas debates in America. But I would also remember that, the tone of rhetoric in U.S. politics, I mean, go back to some of the presidential campaigns in the early 1800s, they make Donald Trump look like Emily Post when it comes to polite rhetoric. So, we should also have a little bit of historical perspective here. Yeah.